What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, where today we have some big news. I just came off the back of a 16-hour stream, so I'm a little bit tired, but this is a big deal, and I thought we should cover it here on the channel. We have the official rulebook for VGC 2023, and it is a doozy. The big change that everyone is talking about is that we are now playing open team list. If you're not familiar, if you haven't played a lot of online tournaments, basically, normally we have always played closed team sheet or team list, where essentially you sit down across from your opponent and you have no information about their team except for what you see in team preview. And now we have open team list, which looks a little something like this. Basically, now we're going to have full information on the opponent's teams except for stats. You can see right here, this is an example of a tournament that I played a couple of weeks ago. You can see that I know everything, all the moves, item, ability, Terra type, and that is really a big deal for us. It's going to completely change the way we build, completely change the way we play the game in tournaments. And let's start with the positives. Terra types should be public. Now, in a perfect world, I think this would be shown in team preview, and we would still be playing closed team sheets, but with open Terra types. But this is good. Basically, even, like, every Pokemon has 2 or 3 Terra types that are standard, so even if you're running a standard Terra type, you're not going to know which one it is for your opponent, and that can really throw a wrench in your plans, especially in a best-of-3 format where I'm only going to be able to scout one of your Terra types per game. It's very possible in a best-of-3 that you have 3 weird Terra types that I'm not accounting for, and I just get surprised by them and lose the series off the back of just not knowing the Terra types. That is not fun for anyone. I haven't seen a single person saying that open Terra types is bad. So that's very good. That's a good start. Now, the rest of open team sheet's a little weird. I think this benefits primarily 2 groups of players. This is 3. What am I doing? 2 groups of players. It benefits new players, which I think is great. Anything that is good for new players that lowers the barrier to entry for tournaments is good. We want to be able to get more people playing our game. And why this benefits them is really quite simple. There are dozens and dozens of viable Pokemon in any different meta, and all of those Pokemon have very deep move pools, 40, 50 moves sometimes, and it's really hard to memorize every viable Pokemon's full move pool. So being able to have that information in front of you as a new player is a really big deal. A great example right now is that a lot of new players might not be familiar with Armor Rouge getting Wide Guard. Wide Guard is a very powerful move in the current meta. And if you are running like Garchomp or Torkoal or things like that that require their spread moves to dish out big damage, not knowing that Wide Guard is a move that Armor Rouge gets would be a pretty big deal. So being able to see that on the team sheet in front of you and plan accordingly, that's really good for new players. The second group of people that I think this benefits is top players. A lot. I'm going to put a disclaimer here. I think this is really good for me. I think this rule change is going to help me a lot. Historically, I would say 30-40% of my losses at regionals has come from people running weird stuff that I wasn't prepared for. So, this is good for me, but I don't necessarily agree that it's the best thing for the community. The reason why this is great for top players is that it centralizes the meta even more around the meta teams, the most meta teams. If we're all running the same team, whoever is the better player mechanically will usually come out on top. The main way that the playing field is leveled between good and top players is with really neat tech moves, and it can work really well. Sometimes people will run an uncommon Pokemon, but more often it will be a tech move that is really good into a certain meta or a certain popular matchup that the top player will not have expected. A perfect example of this is Wolfie in NAIC lost 2-0 on day 1 to a player called Teamsheet. Teamsheet is a very good player, but Wolfie is Wolfie. I don't think Teamsheet would disagree with me if I said that Wolfie is a better player than Teamsheet. But Teamsheet was able to win off of the surprise factor of his Urshifu being black glasses and dishing out way more damage than Wolfie was expecting. That kind of thing would not be possible in an open team sheet situation. A similar example of something that worked really well was Nathan Ortiz, Cortex's team that he was able to do very well with at regionals, where he was running Custap Berry Endure Talonflame on the first iteration, where basically that's a whole, if you don't know what that is, it's a whole thing, but basically that is another strategy that was fundamental to his game plan and would not work in an open team sheet situation. There are entire Pokemon that are made way weaker as a result of this. Meowstic is a great example. It's a support Pokemon that has very low defensive stats. It's very easy to knock out, The whole reason Meowstic is really good is that it gets access to 9 or 10 really solid prankster support moves. So you sit down in front of a Meowstic player, and you're scared because you don't know what the Meowstic is going to do. But now you have full information, Meowstic's just not viable. A lot of Pokemon are going to be hurt like that. On the other hand, I think it is important for us to talk about the scouting advantage. This is something that has been a thing for forever, basically, where the power of friendship is very real in VGC. If I, as somebody who knows a lot of people, see my third round Swiss matchup, and I'm playing against John Smith, and I remember, oh, my friend Chalky played against John Smith in round 1. I'll go to Chalky, I'll ask Chalky, hey, what happened? And he'll be like, oh man, he had Flame Orb Psycho Shift Cresselia. I didn't see it coming and it beat me. Now, I know about Flame Orb Psycho Shift Cresselia and I can plan accordingly. Meanwhile, John Smith has no information on me. So, one of the things that's good about this is it does mitigate the scouting advantage that established players have versus new players. Realistically, this could still be an issue going into top cuts of tournaments because the established players with lots of friends will have prep time the night before, whereas the newer player is only going to get the team sheet 5 minutes before, most likely. But this problem has been significantly mitigated, which I think is worth talking about. Now let's talk about logistics. Logistics are boring, but this is happening because of a lack of the battle box locking function in Scarlet and Violet. So to explain what I mean, in Gen 8 and before, we would show up to regionals or internationals an hour and a half before the tournament was set to start. We'd all stand in line and they would lock our teams for the event into a box where they could not be altered. That's not a function in this game, which is a bit concerning, but the general consensus is that the reason we're playing open team sheet is so that we can keep our opponents accountable, so that if they change a move or something, if their Golden Ghost suddenly uses Dazzling Gleam and I look to my left and it's not on the team sheet, we can hold them accountable, call a judge. It's mainly to prevent people from cheating, which is good. We don't want people cheating. But and there's another upside here as well. The battle box locking, honestly, in the past has taken forever. It has sometimes had us showing up at the event at 7 in the morning and starting at 9 because it just takes so long to lock everybody in, especially with the upcoming events that have 600 competitors. I'm glad that we are not going to have to stand in line for 2 hours to wait for the tournament to start. This is a nice silver lining that comes along with this as well. Logistically, I am concerned about how we're going to do this. I feel like it has to be paper team sheets. If you allow phones on the table, that opens up a lot of potential issues. So if we talk about paper team sheets, language is a very serious issue. Now, most of us speak English. A lot of the players from Europe and even from, Asia and wherever, in South America, they do speak English, at least to a level where they know the names of the moves. That is something that is true. But not everybody speaks English, especially the Japanese community. They're very insular. A lot of them don't speak English. So, okay, we could have English team sheets and Japanese team sheets, but you're still creating an issue in that what happens if I'm a player who shows up from, I don't know, Croatia, and I don't speak English or Japanese, I only speak the native language of Croatia. Are you just gonna have Croatian team sheets around? Probably not. So this does create some issues that I'm interested to see how they deal with. I will say, from my experience this past season, the VGC judge teams have been extraordinarily competent. They've been really, really good at making everything run smoothly, and I have faith in them to execute the logistics of this well. Over here, we do have something about the language of the team list in the rulebook, and it basically says that it needs to be the language of the local language of the event is a mandatory one, and then also English at international championships. But again, this does create issues for players who don't speak English or Japanese, for example, at Worlds. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So hopefully it's not going to be an issue, but I just feel like that bears mentioning. So overall, what do I think about this? Good? Bad? Medium? I think it's a mixed bag. I think it would have been way better if it was open Terra types with closed team sheets, but I also acknowledge that given the lack of a battle box locking function, this is a necessity. At the end of the day, it would not be a good idea if we just kind of crossed our fingers and hoped that everyone was going to be honest and not change their teams. There's enough people playing in VGC that you're going to run into issues, so I think this was a necessity to at least provide some checks and balances to prevent any illicit activity from happening. Logistically, as I said, I have some concerns, But the judge team has always been really impressive to me. They've done a great job, and I'm sure that they will figure out how to handle this as well as possible. As far as events, there's San Diego coming up in a little bit over 4 weeks. I'm super excited for the season to get started. I'm really, really loving this format. I think that Scarlet and Violet is just such a fun game to play, and I'm just excited to see what the new season brings. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Open Teamsheet. Obviously, what I've said here is all my opinion. It's all super subjective, and there's a lot of differing opinions throughout the VGC community. So I would be fascinated to hear what you all think. So let me know. And if you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you don't miss any of the upcoming battle videos. I have a lot of really cool content planned, and I'll see you guys next time.